He says, you know, I saw him on Evans and Novak, and they were saying, well, how do you feel as a black mayor? He said, I didn't run as a black mayor. You know, he said, because the majority of the electorate is white. He said, I ran as the best person for the job. And apparently that's what the electorate thought I was, and that's why they elected me.
And Wilder said the same thing in Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about David Dinkins running for mayor of New York.
That's what Wilder said in Virginia.
And Wilder in Virginia said the same thing.
That's what Wilder said, yeah.
I think Dinkins said the same thing, too.
Yeah, you can't, well, see, because the thing is, if you're an American, you should run on the basis of being able to represent other Americans. You know, you can't run as a black mayor or as a white mayor or as a Mexican mayor. I mean, Cisneros in San Antonio, a guy, you know, but, and he spoke to some of the people in Spanish and some of the people in English, but he ran as the best mayor for San Antonio, and he probably was.
Yeah. What about Farrakhan? What do you think of him?
What do I think about him?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's a lot to think about him. I mean, he's a fascist, I would say. He's a racist. I mean, what I never understand with you all is why you all never ask him what it seems to me is the simplest question to open an interview with, which is, Mr. Farrakhan, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, your predecessor and your mentor, taught his followers of the Nation of Islam that the white race was a race of devils grafted by a mad scientist named Yaqub 6,000 years ago. Do you believe this? In my book, I have an essay about Farrakhan called The Nationalism of Fools, and it describes him in performance. And I would suggest that people go to hear him not because they necessarily believe what he says, but because he's a thorn, a spear, an irritant to the purported white power structure.
Yeah.
You know, people like to go hear him call white people names. But, I mean, you see women in tight pants and short dresses with a lot of lipstick on and wigs and all this. At the Israelis, they're not going to go into the Nation of Islam because they'd have to take off those tight pants and wear longer dresses and take off the lipstick and all that business. I mean, they're there because it's what I call political rock and roll. It's there because it's liked because it irritates somebody else. You know the thing that they say about the kid who gets the electric guitar and turns it up to 10 just so he can drive his mother and father crazy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think that's the same thing that people go to hear Farrakhan for. They go to hear him make the white people mad.
And maybe because they're suffering a little bit and there's some pain in their life, and therefore it's somewhat of a salve to hear that.
Yeah, and well, it's also easy because I mean he pins all of the evil on the white people. I mean, his thing is the reason you're messed up is because of them. They brought you over here. They made you like this. And the solution is to get away from them. Well, I'd say one of the things that has to be done is that people have to, again, engage their faiths and begin what is the real problem of working in a democracy if you represent a so-called special interest group. What you have to do is you have to make your problems seem to be, which is what they truly are, American problems. You see, it was a very interesting thing, for instance, that happened when the Tawana Brawley fraud initially seemed as though it was a real case. Mario Cuomo said at a press conference early on, he said, I feel as though Tawana Brawley is my daughter. I feel as though she is all of our daughters.
Before we do this, let's explain who Tawana Brawley is, because it's an interesting point you want to make, and I want to explain. She was the young woman in New York who said that she had been
that she had been kidnapped and held in the woods and then raped and sodomized for 2 or 3 days.
And then stuffed in a garbage can.
Yeah, by a group of white men, a few of them police officers.
Right.
Cuomo said that he felt that she was his daughter and that she was all of our daughters. And to me, that is the real point of political engagement. You know, is that you make problems, make it clear to people that that all problems of Americans are American problems. They're not the problems of Jews, nor the problems of Hispanics, nor the problems of so-called poor whites, nor the problems of the so-called underclass, etc. That they are American problems, and that it is the job of Americans to get those problems eradicated.